David Lowery is the name of the very talented filmmaker behind the absolutely stunning The Green Knight. This is a movie that stars Dev Patel as Sir Gawain, who challenges the titular Green Knight in a Christmas game in King Arthur's court. Gawain is the nephew of King Arthur, and he wants nothing more than to impress his uncle and show that he's going to be a legendary knight like the other legendary knights that surround him in King Arthur's court, the Knights of the Round Table. There's a little emphasis on the Arthurian legend, but this is played very differently than what we've seen in other things like Excalibur in the past. This is more a leaning into Gawain grappling with his mortality and his responsibility and his place in the world. And it is a cinematic telling of a Middle Ages legend or a poem that was written by an anonymous writer, tied in and looped around Arthurian legend. It's unbelievably beautiful and, loaded with fantastical imagery. It's also expertly crafted, and it looks like everything was shot using as much natural lighting as possible, including in the dark corners of castles. You'll just see slits of light across characters' faces. You'll feel the light. You'll sort of walk with Patel into a room, and the camera will follow him into these old, creepy castles and creepy buildings, and the camera will just pass into pure darkness, but you feel it, when the light sort of comes into play as the characters move across the scene. It's stunning. It's incredible. And of course, we have a lot of forest imagery. There's also fantastical imagery with this beautiful fox creation. There are giants to behold. It is a feast for the eyes. But the story of the film really wraps around this idea of a character dealing with mortality and his place in the world and the story that he can sort of convey to King Arthur and how his name will be placed and remembered in context to all of these great heroic characters all around him. It's about grappling with that. It's about grappling with identity. And it's also like a physical journey movie as well, because we follow Gawain on his quest to meet up with the Green Knight deep in the forest. And along the way, he meets up with all kinds of interesting characters, people that will challenge him and betray him and give him new quests, sub-quests along the way to sort of fulfill his ultimate quest. There's a lot that is left to you as the viewer to interpret. I do have to say that I went in with feelings like, oh my God, is this going to be something like Boorman's Excalibur, which is something that I saw back in the 80s when I was a young kid. I was blown away by Excalibur. Excalibur was a very interesting movie to come out in the time frame of Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Alien, and the Terminator stuff was coming, and in the middle of all that was this crazy Middle Ages adventure story based around the magical sword and King Arthur and all the twisted interplay that existed between those characters. I loved it, and I remember just going into the woods with my stick and pretending to be wielding Excalibur, and I just thought it was incredible. And I thought, okay, man, is this going to be kind of a modernized angle on this great tale or these great legends? And it is in some ways, but it's also much more meditative and contemplative, and it really forces you to kind of think things through. It's such a rich film that it's hard not to be impressed by the intelligence of it, the craftsmanship of it. But I have to say, I wasn't emotionally taken on a ride, and that was a little disappointing. I really expected to feel more for the characters in the film. And I think what was missing in this movie for me were more action beats, more elements of adventure or high adventure that played off of these fantastical images that we see in the world. That would have been a choice that I would have gone for, and I was hoping for, and I feel I didn't really get when I watched the movie. I enjoyed it intellectually, but it felt like a trip to the museum. I mean, there are lots of great panning shots across beautiful works of art, but that's what it felt like to me. It's like we were passing through these beautiful, almost museum-like displays where there are these insane images of giants walking into the distance, or a shot of limbs from creepy trees creating almost like a cathedral-like background. And then we also do see some amazing and iconic looking classical architecture in the movie as well. At the end of it, I felt like, okay, I understand that this character had some things happen to him, but I didn't feel that empathy for this character, and I didn't feel like I went through it with him. And so I was a bit removed. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, because I think that this is a film that deserves a re-examination and multiple watches. I believe that this will be a film studied for many years, especially in the context of other, Arthurian legend films and medieval work, and what Peter Jackson did with The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. This is going to be juxtaposed against a lot of those movies, but this is definitely a unique take. It's an ambiguous take, and it's a beautiful take, but I just was not moved. So I have to say I'm a little bit all over the place with my final thoughts on the movie. I think you should see it, but I think you should drop your expectations and just go in as clear-minded as possible and, appreciate the story that these filmmakers have crafted for you. Dev Patel is wonderful in this movie. He is, incredible as a leading man. I also enjoyed Joel Edgerton and Alicia Vikander's work in here. There's an authenticity to the way that everything is built and crafted. But again, I felt removed emotionally. I think I'm giving most of my points to the artistic endeavor of this film. I just wanted to feel more emotionally. I'm going to give The Green Knight an 8 out of 10.